Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're continuing the repair to our 79 Suzuki GS550. In the last episode we did the rough out, so now it's time to lay the body filler and putty. Let's dig right in. Do love the smell of Bondo to this day. Anyway, first thing we're going to need to do is I'm going to start with about a golf ball size glob of Bondo there. Just a little bit of hardener. Too little is better than too much if you don't know what you're doing. This will be a fairly quick mix if you see I've drawn a line about halfway across the glob there. A lot of more experienced guys will just draw the line right across the Bondo, and you'll see it'll come out like almost a pink color. It'll be a pretty quick set, and that's great if you're in a shop or an environment where you need to finish up pretty quickly, but we're taking our time today. No reason to rush. Now the biggest thing about mixing Bondo or putty for that matter, you just want to gently fold it in. You don't want to stir or mix it or whip it or anything like that. You just want to gently move back and forth. We're taking our time, obviously this is a hobby for us at this point. So take your time, get a good consistent color throughout. If you're still seeing streaks, you need to continue mixing. And just make sure you don't get a glob of hardener at the end of your knife or somewhere else where you don't want it. Now at various points during this video, I'm going to speed it up. Nobody needs to watch someone blocking something out at full speed. I mean, probably a couple hours work that went into this, and nobody wants to watch a 2-hour YouTube video. So just going to speed it up a little bit, and I got some music as well. Local outfit in town here named DieScumInc generously provided me a couple of their songs to use. Enjoy. Now we lay the Bondo into a repair area. Try to use quite a bit of pressure at least for the initial fill kind of thing. Just make sure you get in all the nooks and crannies. Looking at this, I probably should have brought the paint back even further. You'll see I actually do go back because I have to take that stripe off anyway. But you want to make sure you have as much room as possible to work without creating too large of a repair area. So just kind of work the Bondo gently from one end to the other. Try to keep aware of high spots, and anything you can do at this stage to maintain a good contour will save you time later, and ultimately can lead to a better repair. What you'll see is I'll be going over this with a body file first, and these things are really handy. They're great for your first coat of Bondo. You go over with a file and it's really easy to pick out your high spots, as well as determine which areas need more work or more Bondo as it were. It also cuts super fast. The key is to go in just before the Bondo's hard, so you kind of want it half cured or 3/4 cured. You can just kind of easily knock down the ridges and the high spots with it. At the front of the emblem there, I'm not sure if it's been obvious throughout this process, but I was unable to pull that part. If you look at how the panel itself is creased, so there's no way to pull that out, but it's going to be covered by the badge anyway. We'll follow that up with 80 grit on a block, just a hand block. Just get us ready for the next coat, because obviously this isn't going to do it. This is a fairly large repair. If you didn't see the first video, this tank was pretty badly damaged. Now the most important thing when you're blocking is to try to keep long strokes as much as possible and crisscross. So start at the top and work your way to the bottom in a crisscross fashion. That'll help you follow the contours of the panel a little better. Now once we've worked it over with the block and got things relatively level, or at least knocked down our high spots, we're ready to put down another coat of Bondo. Once again, once this mostly cures, we're just going to go over it, just skim it with the body file, just kind of knock down the high spots. once we've got our second coat of Bondo mostly level, we can go over it with the DA just to make this work a little quicker. We are going to be going over this with Putty, so it's not essential that it be perfect. Again, it's going to be 80 grit on the DA, 80 grit on the block. That'll help us level it out and get it ready for staging out further to 180 once we get Putty on it. Now, one other thing that's important to remember when you're blocking, at least I've always found it's easier to work the edges down last if you've got a crease in the panel or if it's on an edge. I always save the edges for last, and because they cut very quickly. Now it's time for Putty. So we've got 80 grit scratches on here, which is just perfect for Putty. Putty will adhere pretty well to 80 grit scratches. Bondo, of course, prefers 36 or 40 grit scratches. Now, Putty's great stuff. If you've ever used it, you know that it's super easy sanding. It fills nicely, it flows nicely. It's perfect, except that it's very expensive. If you're buying your own materials, you'll notice this. Go get a small tube of Putty and, it'd be about the size of a toothpaste tube and you'll wind up paying $15 for it. So certainly, and when you're in industry, your shop manager isn't going to want to see you skimming the whole side of a car with Putty. They want to use it more situationally, obviously, to save cost. We're not as worried about that. We're going to lay this stuff down pretty liberally. There's going to be a little bit of a fill and a little bit of a skim coat. So once you got the Putty down, one nice thing you can do is clean up the edges at the end with a knife. Just kind of scrape across it, and that'll make it a little easier to sand. You may as well do that because you got nothing else to do while that stuff's drying. The other thing we're going to do while we wait for our Putty to dry is we're going to take off this stripe. So I've got 180 grit on a DA here, a 6-inch disc. I'm just going to buzz this stripe off as well as try to feather edge the repair area a little better. Putty cuts extremely quickly, so you need to be a little bit careful. Certainly, especially if you've got 80 grit on the block, this stuff will disappear very quickly. And yeah, you don't really want to use a DA with 80 grit on Putty unless you know that you're going to be doing another coat. So I've currently got 180 grit on this block here, and I've noticed a little ridge of metal has popped through my repair area, and that leads me to believe that we might have a high spot there from when we actually did the rough out. So we'll have to take care of that. Meantime, we'll knock down the rest of the Putty. We're definitely in for at least one more coat, but I did say going in that this was a bit of a hack, so I hope you'll forgive me for that. Now, yep, as I thought, so after finishing blocking it out, got a good look at this, and it is a high spot here. So we're just going to tap that down with the pick of our hammer. I'll show you how to do that real quick. You just want to get in close. Again, depending on the thickness of the metal, this is fairly thick steel on this tank. Just kind of weight your strikes according to what you're working on and how high it is. And obviously try to be accurate. Anything you damage here, you're going to have to fix at this point. So just going to work across the dent from front to rear using the pick of the hammer. I'm going to move fairly slowly, check my work as I go. Just kind of give it a few little wraps there. Now with the high spot taken care of, we're just going to put some more 80 grit scratches on here, because again, we'd block that out with 180. So we're just blocking the final skim coat of putty off. Well, don't want to jinx it, I guess. Hopefully final coat of putty off. And again, we're just using 180 on a 6-inch block. Just moving slowly, trying to be a little bit meticulous at this stage of the repair. So with our skim coat sanded down, things are feeling pretty good. I'm just checking the panel over with using my fingertips to kind of tell if there's any waves or anything like that. We will, of course, get plenty of opportunity to see if I've screwed things up when we get to the primer and prep stage, which will be what we handle next. So, thanks for watching.